there, happy Sunday. Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there had a great Christmas, Hanukkah, holiday week, and thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up, some Niners injury news to get into prior to San Francisco hosting the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. Some bad news for Brock Purdy going into this game. I'll explain that coming up here in just a moment. One bright spot during a difficult year for the Niners. I want to talk about one player on the defensive side of the ball, and then I'm already starting to put together some notes, do some scouting on some Niners draft prospects that I really like. Right now, San Francisco could have a really good pick in the draft. If the season were to end today, they'd be around 11, around that top 10. Speaking of that Niners-Lions matchup, we'll be live for it right here on the Niners Report. Just because San Francisco is eliminated from playoff contention doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing watch parties. You got to be built different here on these YouTube streets. The show begins about an hour before kickoff, 7:15 p.m. Eastern, 4:15 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe. Join us. And also this offseason coming up for the Niners. Going to be a massive one, and I have you covered every step of the way. And going into this game against Detroit, the Niners on this Sunday during Week 17, clearing Nick Bosa, Isaac Guerendo, Kyle Juszczyk, Leonard Floyd, Jordan Elliott, Talanoa Hufanga, and D. Winters to play against the Lions. This, of course, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game where the Niners went down huge in that first half, and then they stormed all the way back to win in epic fashion to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. A late addition to the injury report as far as a player who is out, and it's not because of an injury, but Charvarius Ward is expecting the birth of a son. He may have played his last game as a Niner. Think about the Niners' actions. They paid Deommodore Lenoir. They gave him $88 million. They drafted Renardo Green in the second round. They have been a very good cornerback tandem, and Ward is approaching that age in his 30s where the decline is going to happen at some point. And he's played good enough football in his career, especially living up to the hype with the contract that the Niners signed him to. Really good deal, about $14 million for top-flight cornerback play, where even though he struggled this year in 2024, I think he's going to get paid and be one of the most sought-after cornerbacks in the free agency market. As for Brock Purdy here, as we know with the Niners quarterback, he is looking for a contract extension after this season. It could be a deal worth 50 to 60, maybe even more than that as far as $1 million per year. And Brock's going to try to get a lot of guaranteed money. He's been one of the best bargain deals among all players in the NFL since he took over as the team's starting quarterback in 2022. 2022 played excellent. 2023, top 5 in MVP voting. This year, he struggled, and a lot of that is due to all of the chaos and instability around him, a lot of injuries that the Niners have had to deal with. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's had a great year. I don't think Brock Purdy, all things considered, has had a great year. But as you look ahead, he's going to get paid. How much is the big question? But he's probably looking at this Niners starting offensive line in Week 17, the possibilities of it, and he's saying, am I going to be able to stay on my feet? Am I just going to get drilled all game long and get pressured in the pocket? Is Detroit just going to be able to wreak havoc against this Niners offensive line? Because this is a real possibility that this is the starting offensive line for San Francisco against Detroit. Left tackle, Austin Pleasance. Left guard, Nick Zakelj. Center, Jake Brendel. Right guard, Dominic Pooney. And right tackle, Charlie Heck. The Niners' offensive line has already been really bad in front of Purdy. That's led to a downslide in play. You put that offensive line in front of Purdy, in front of many quarterbacks, how can you expect them to be successful, both with pass pro and with trying to run the football? So if Brock Purdy can really elevate his team and pull off a huge upset win over Detroit with that offensive line and play really well, put up huge numbers, that's very impressive. Detroit, a very banged-up football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But their defense, statistically, is still put up solid numbers, so this could be a long night for San Francisco, especially when you have Ben Johnson going up against Nick Sorensen, if you want to talk about a play caller offensively for Detroit, going up against the Niners play caller. Now, next, I want to talk about a player who's been a bright spot for San Francisco this year. It has been a rough year for the Niners, But one of the bright spots has been and continues to be second-round pick Renardo Green, who I talked about moments ago. And it looks like San Francisco has their starting outside cornerback tandem for the future with him and Diamador Lenore. Lenore signing for $88 million when he's playing really well at that position, it's actually a pretty good deal. Renardo Green, not making anything after this year for the next 3. And so in a pass-happy offensive era, if you can lock down the cornerback spots, that's huge. I do think San Francisco needs to address that position with depth in the NFL draft and or in free agency. But outside of getting a quarterback, an offensive tackle, and edge rushers, I think corners rank highly in team-building priority if I were running an NFL front office. And San Francisco looks like they have 2 really good corners who are young for the foreseeable future. His overall 76.5 Pro Football Focus coverage grade ranks 18th among all corners in the NFL. And think about what Green has done the last couple of weeks. Against the Rams 2 weeks ago, didn't give up a catch on 28 pass coverage snaps, was good in his reps against the likes of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. And then last week against the Dolphins, he was targeted twice when guarding Tyreek Hill, did not give up a catch while also breaking up a touchdown opportunity for Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest, most dynamic and dangerous wide receivers in the NFL in the end zone. Kid's a player. Niners needed to hit on that 2024 class. It looks as though they did, and that's without knowing what the returns are going to be of Ricky Pearsall and Jake Cowing, who I do think have some ability. Today's 49ers Report sponsored by our friends at PrizePicks. Easy and exciting daily fantasy during Picksmas. PrizePicks has given out so many great deals and so much money. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And right now, when you play $5, you can win $50. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And with PrizePicks, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So win big-time money on PrizePicks. Withdraw your winnings all within the app. Pick more, pick less. Run your game with PrizePicks. Some selections that we like going into Monday Night Football. Brock Purdy, let's go more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think he gets on the board for at least 2. George Kittle, more than 5 receptions. How do you not target him more than 5 times? And when you throw it to him, oftentimes he's pulling it down. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, more than 72.5 receiving yards. It's Merry Picksmas. Pick more, pick less. Pick PrizePicks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Okay, with the Niners out of playoff contention, I've really started to dive deep into some players who I would really like the Niners to take in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft, and they're going to have a pretty good selection. And so with the college football playoff quarterfinals going down on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, I want you to keep an eye on some of these players. And during bowl season, keep an eye on some of these players if they haven't played. If not, check out some of the tape. So the Niners and Niners fans should be keeping an eye on both of Texas's offensive tackles during the college football playoff. Left tackle Kelvin Banks, right tackle Cameron Williams. Banks is 6'4", 320 pounds, not yet 21 years old, projects as a day 1 starter in the NFL. I think he's going to go in the first round of the draft. Could be the top offensive tackle taken in this class. Could he play right tackle and then take over for Trent Williams in the future? That's a possibility. He has primarily just played at that left tackle spot. He's heavier. Cameron Williams is primarily a right tackle. He's a little bit heavier as compared to Banks and bigger at 6'5", 335. Not as athletic and fleet of foot. One of his pro comps is Dominic Pooney, has some shorter arms, and Dominic Pooney was a college offensive tackle who also played guard and is now the right guard for San Francisco. Banks, we'll see if he's on the board by the time that the Niners pick. It really depends on how many quarterbacks go in front of the Niners and where they select. But Kelvin Banks, Cameron Williams, both offensive tackles for Texas. Keep an eye on both of those players. Another player who I'm really intrigued by in the first round is Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham. What did I say a little bit ago? You got to get a quarterback, got to get an edge rusher, got to get offensive tackles, cornerbacks, defensive tackles, like offensive line, defensive line, such important position groups with your football team. And Mason Graham, the defensive tackle for Michigan, is an excellent player, and the Niners need to rebuild the trenches on both sides of the ball. So if you go best player available and he's still there, you probably can't pass up on him. And while, Mason Graham is a player who at Michigan has put a lot of great plays on tape. He's gone up against some really, really good and stout competition. He's done it in the Big Ten when you're being matched up against some really good fellow offensive linemen, and he's still winning a lot of those battles. So offensive tackle, center, left guard, big needs on offense. Defensive tackle, edge, need to be dressed on defense. And going best player available, I think, is the smart strategy. Right now, Niners slated to pick 11th. We'll see what happens with the NFL games that transpire today. And if Graham is on the board, I think it'll be really tough to pass up on him. Teams are back to running it more across the NFL. If you can get an interior pass rush and stop the run, you can wreck games. I mean, look at what Aaron Donald did in the past. Chris Jones has done the last several years. What Jalen Carter is doing for the Philadelphia Eagles right now in really taking over games. 6'3", 320. Overall Pro Football Focus grades the last 3 years of 90.7, 90, and 80.3. This year he lined up in the B-gap 406 snaps, A-gap 11 snaps, over tackle 83, outside tackle 38, and off ball 10. And so a bulk of his snaps at defensive tackle in the B-gap 406. He also has impressive versatility. And so I think he's an easy prospect in the sense that he can impact games right from the jump, be a good player for a long time, and be a sure-thing player. And if he's on the board for San Francisco, he's explosive, nasty, 9 sacks, 38 hurries in the last 2 years. Too good to pass up on, in my opinion. Also at the tight end spot, if the Niners really want to rebuild, they could let George Kittle play out the expiring year of his contract in 2025 and draft Tyler Warren out of Penn State. It's about as good of a replacement as you could dream of. Kittle is still playing at an elite level. There are far greater needs in round one compared to tight end, offensive tackle, edge, defensive tackle. But if they go best player available, again, would be a fascinating pick. He kind of has the size of Gronk and like the yak ability of George Kittle. And this is a guy who has played quarterback at Penn State. He's played center. He's played tailback. He takes quarterback snaps out of the Wildcat. He can play slot. He plays outside. He is just a freak, and you really see the basketball player history in him, resulting in him being a really good athlete. And so I want to round out this. My top 3 very early dream draft targets for San Francisco. Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. Twitchy, can get after the quarterback. Him on the other side of Nick Bosa. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, Texas. And then Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. So a lot of stuff to get to here on this Sunday. Wanted to pass along some prospects who I really like. We'll, of course, continue to do more in-depth draft content over the next several weeks and months in the lead up to April's NFL draft. Don't forget to hit that sub button. Appreciate everybody for watching, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Niners-Lions watch party. Can't wait for it.